Ayan. Online na.
Online na.
Online na. Hello, good afternoon po. Good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Father. Merry Christmas.
Hello, Merry Christmas, Luciano. Magpapasko na,
no?
September 1.
Yes, correct. Yan. Habang kinihintay ang ating mga kasama, don't forget to share this post right now. Yun ang ginagawa ko ngayon. So, isi-share ko na. Yan. Start a watch party, pinaka-the best. Sa ganon, alam na nila lahat na ikaw ay nanonood. Yan. Ayun, done. Tapos, isi-share ko pa sa, Father? Isi-share ko sa, dito, sa group chat ng parokya. Oo, para sa ganon, diretso yan sa PPC, may group chat ng worship, yan. Lahat po yun. Share, tapos share as, share, send in messenger. Yan, yun ang paraan. Share, send in messenger. Then you go to messenger, and then hanap yung mga group chat. Yan, worship team, lay minister, execom, parish staff, core group, PYM, lahat po yan. 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 Pre-secretariat. Yan, lahat. Okay, very good. Ayun.
Mag-share
yan, done. Very good. Habang pumapasok po yung ating mga kasama, some reminders. Number 1, let us know where you are right now. What city or what country. Napakaganda at napakasaya malaman na may taga-iba't ibang lugar na sumusubaybay. So let us know where you are right now. Number 2, of course, don't forget to share the post right now na sa ganon, yung mga papasok ay aabutan nila yung buong lesson. Kasi mahirap po yung sasama on the last 5 minutes. Tapos, yung tanong medyo out of tune. Kasi hindi nasamahan yung buong explanation, no? So, maganda na i-share ngayon para umpisa pala ng lesson, andyan na sila. Maganda na hindi maiwan. Alright. And then, reminder number 3, you can go back to the old episodes at YouTube, Almusalita by Father Luciano Felloni, and go to playlist. Andoon po sa playlist under Canon Law. Andoon po yung lahat ng previous episodes kung gusto niyong balikan. Alright, so welcome po sa lahat ng andyan. And welcome po mula sa iba't ibang lugar. Mamaya sasabihin natin kung taga saan. We welcome po kayong lahat. And so, Father Jigs, last week, bago po matapos, we were talking about the episode, on the past episode, we were talking about the actions of the juridical persons. But then, pumunta tayo sa power of governance.
Governance,
Can you give us a short background of this, short refreshing na ano ang pinag-usapan? If there is power in the church, if the lay people have power, and how is the power transmitted in the church? Yan po yung i-refresh mo, Father. And then we go to the new part, that is what kind of branches of government we have in the church. How is the power usually used, and who is the person, who are the persons that can use in the proper how would you say, on their own person, and also as delegated or as a vicarial form. So we will talk about all of that, and we will finish with my favorite, that is Ecclesia Supplet. What if there are honest mistakes, sabihin natin, when we make some forms of decisions. So lahat po yun, let's start with a refresh on the power in the church.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, mga kapatid natin na nanonood sa atin pong Canon Law 101. Ang tanong ko natin, meron bang power sa simbahan? Ang sagot po, yes, there's power. And this power is called power of governance. Nung araw po, ang tawag dito, power of jurisdiction. Sacramentally speaking po, ito yung tinatawag nating power of orders. Power o kapangyarihan po na nagmumula galing sa ordinasyon. So yun po ibig sabihin. But basically, essentially po, itong power na ito comes from the Lord. At ito po ay pinagkaloob sa simbahan para po paglingkuran ang tupa, ang kawan ni Kristo. So yan po ang ibig sabihin ng power na yan. Of course, because since this is called power of orders, ito po ay nanggaling o nagmumula o ipinagkakaloob sa pamamagitan ng ordinasyon. So sa madaling sabi po, sabi ng Canon Law, those who are ordained in the ministry exercise this power of governance. However po, ang tanong ganito, paano yung mga laiko, wala pa silang power na ganito? Ang sagot po ng Canon Law, napakasimple. Sinasabi ng Canon Law na the lay faithful can cooperate. Pwede silang tumulong o cooperate, makibahagi sa pangyarihan na ito. Sa katunayan po, makikita natin yan sa iba't ibang larangan sa buhay simbahan. Yung pagiging members ng Finance Council, halimbawa. Sabi ko dati, example ko noong nakaraan, even sa administration ng diocese, meron pa rin cooperation sa power of governance. Pwede maging chancellor o finance o economo ang isang laiko. Pwede rin maging judge sa tribunal ang isang laiko. So, sabi ko nga po
even,
ito.
Father, even in the Vatican, no, mayroon mga lay people serving in a high position, no?
Yes, si Pope Francis kilala sa ganyan eh, ang tawag natin ito lay empowerment. Lay empowerment, parang tumatawag siya o nag-appoint siya ng mga laiko na may kakayahan talaga sa iba't ibang larangan ng kanilang profesyon, no? Para maglingkod. And this is a cooperation in the power of governance. Tama yung Padre Luciano? Tapos, I think, dapat siguro ang simbahan tayo din, no? Yun natin direction talaga. Ibahagi itong kapangyarihan na ito na hindi lang tayo mga pare ang dapat gumamit o magkaroon ng ganitong kapangyarihan, kundi ang mga laiko natin. Kaya yung salita na lay empowerment, delegation of the lay, tapping the lay for ministries or service, yan po, these are expressions of big cooperation in the power of governance that is possessed and exercised by the clergy, those who are ordained. Ayan po. Iba't iba ang paggamit or exercise ng power of governance. Depende po sa rank or sa order. May deacon, may priest, tapos may bishop. Ang bishop po, siya talaga may fullness ng power of orders. Kasi siya may fullness ng ordination o ng priesthood. So kaya yung priest po, mapapansin natin lahat nasa kanya. Yung kapangyarihan na yun.
And Father, moving forward, no?
Yes.
Can you explain? We talked, I think, in the past, a short refreshment, no, of what is internal and external forum, and in what forum does an ordained minister has the power of governance? Do we have the power to govern on the internal forum, or is just on the external forum? Can you get first the distinction between internal and external, and then yung power, where of the two does it apply?
Yeah, okay. So magandang tanong yan kasi sa simbahan natin, since we exercise ministry and administer sacraments, madistinguish yung dalawang bagay. Yung internal forum tsaka external forum. Ang internal forum, ito yung forum o larangan sa Tagalog, kung saan po yung juridic actions ginagawa natin without publicity na hindi na kailangan malaman ng iba. Halimbawa, ito yung kapatawaran ng kasalanan. yung paglalahad ng kasalanan, kumpisal, no? Yung forum na yan, internal, dapat yan, hindi malaman ng iba. Yung sakramento itself, yung kanyang essence is yung sacramental seal, no? So yan. So yan ang internal forum. Yung forum
Father,
saan,
is there any reference to internal forum na hindi sacrament of confession? Halimbawa, if you come to me for spiritual direction, or if you come to me and you ask me for an advice, is that falls under internal forum?
Analogously, yes, internal forum, no? Ito yung mga on the part of the one who receives the information, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin sa iba. Ipinagkatiwala yung kanilang problema. Pero in the level of the sacraments, for instance, ito yung seal of confession, ito yung mga commission of occult offenses na, for instance, merong latae sententiae consequences of excommunication, etc. Yun namang external forum, ito yung mga larangan kung saan yung ginagawa natin ay maaring patunayan publicly, and they can be verifiable in that forum. Ito yung mga actions na public. No? So, yan ang... Ngayon, basically po, ang power of governance ay ginagamit sa external forum. Pero, ginagamit din siya sa internal forum kapag ang tawag ito yung kanyang exercise ay para doon lang. Halimbawa, yung absolution of sins, the granting of indulgences, para makita yung effect ng action na yon, bagamat internal forum yung ina-address nun, para makita sa external forum yung effect ng action. So, ganun.
Pero mostly then is on the external forum.
Yes. Almost always external forum. Administration of the diocese, ayan, etc.
Okay. Good. Wonderful. And this power of governance, may branches ba? Kasi sa gobyerno, mayroon, no? May executive, may legislative, may judiciary. They are equal branches. They are independent from each other. They have particular role. How about in the church? Do we have different powers, and who is assigned to each power? Are they elected, or all of them comes by ordination? Or how does it work? Comparing government with church.
Curiously, ang branches of the power of governance is like the branches of power in government. Merong executive branch, merong legislative branch, merong judicial branch. No? Para po sa lahat ng nanonood sa atin, kapag sinabi mong executive branch of power sa gobyerno, ito yung presidente, mga mayor, yan, executive branch yan. Patupad ng batas.
Barangay captain, ganun.
Barangay captain, mga LGU, local government units. Yan, executive yan sila. Yun namang legislative branch, ito yung Congress. Sa Pilipinas po, may dalawang chambers tayo, yung lower, tsaka higher chambers. Yung House
Congreso, at saka Senado.
Tsaka Senate, Actually, yung Senate pala is also a Congress. Yung inamang what we call Congress is actually the House of Representatives. Tapos we have the judicial branch, yung judiciary, yung hukuman. The highest power is the Chief Justice. No? These are co-equal powers. So they balance the powers of one another. Sa church, however, sa simbahan po, itong tatlong branches of powers na ito ng governance is possessed by the Roman Pontiff, the diocesan bishops, and those who are equal to them in law. So, ibig sabihin po, yung Papa, meron siyang executive, legislative, tsaka judicial powers in himself. Lahat yun nasa kanya yun.
Okay.
Ang obispo, ganun din. Nasa kanya yun lahat. At ganyan din yung mga, yung mga katumbas ng obispo sa law. Kasi minsan may mga apostolic vicar na hindi naman obispo, halimbawa, o the administrator na hindi pa obispo, but in law, they're equal to bishops. They also possess these three branches of power.
How about the parish priest?
Ang parish priest po, actually, ang ating is we cooperate in the work of the bishop. So wala tayong ganyan, to be honest, wala tayong ganyan. We have executive power, pero limited to our scope of yung ating appointment, halimbawa.
So mamaya tatanungin kita kung yung power nating bilang parish priest is vicarious or delegated.
Okay.
Mamaya yan, no? Kasi maganda yon na may iba't ibang, pero yung may power in the diocese ng executive is the bishop only, right?
Yes. Ang executive, si bishop,
as an ordinary.
Sa ordinary, ano yan, yung proper. Pero meron pa din vicarious, yung mga vicars niya. Mamaya iyan natin yan.
Mamaya yung vicarious at saka delegated, no?
Yeah.
So, yung pope at saka yung bishops, they are the one.
Basically sila.
Executive,
yes.
legislative,
At
legislative din, and judicial.
Yes. Para po sa lahat.
Ang question, wala pa nagtatanong, pero ako na lang magtatanong. Paano yun? Kasi sa government, the idea of the three branches of power is basically for check and balance.
Yes.
Principal reason is to divide the power, so there will be a focus, no?
Yes.
One can make laws, another can implement the laws, and another can judge the law.
Yes.
But
yes.
So for division of labor, sabihin natin para mas magaan ang trabaho, but also very important is check and balance. Para
yan ang pinaka-basic,
Ngayon sa simbahan, who does the check and balance? If the bishop has all the power, if the pope has all the power, who does the check and balance of that?
Basically, if you are wondering, bakit magkaiba? Kasi po iba din yung yung structure of power sa simbahan, saka structure of power ng lipunan, ng gobyerno. So basically kasi yung power sa government, the power comes from the people, and those who have been given this power to exercise the power should be checked. Dapat may guarantees na walang maging dictator. Otherwise maging dictatorship, no? Sa simbahan po, iba po ang ating yung ating structure. Kasi tayo po hierarchical tayo. We believe that power comes from the Lord, given to the apostles, and the bishops are the successors of the apostles, and they continue the same way power is exercised that we receive from the Lord. So, meron bang check and balance ang ating power? O wala? Of course, meron. Kasi ang obispo naman in governing the church is in communion with the entire College of Bishops. So pag may mga abuses, meron mga legitimate forum where abuse of power can be checked, no? And the Holy Father, for instance, is that person who can check the abuse of power. Meron siyang tribunal para sa mga ganung klaseng cases.
Father, there is a pertinent question dito ni Roy. May mga cases po ba na breach yung protocol ng internal forum?
Probably ang kanyang sinasabi dito yung mga break yung seal of confession. Meron, I'm sure hindi yan remote. May mga nangyayaring ganyan. So kapag na-breach yung isang protocol ng internal forum, halimbawa regarding the seal of confession, kung yun ay na-violate, may mga legal consequences yan. In fact, I think excommunication yan, no? Late sentensya yan. So may mga...
The priest is automatically excommunicated?
By the mere act of direct disclosure of or violation of the see. Direct.
Intentional.
And seal of confession.
Okay.
So direct, hindi yung tipong na example pero hindi naman referring to a particular person, but general view. Yeah. Sige. Thank you, Roy.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. So, sige, tuloy. So the Pope and the Bishop have these three executive, legislative, and judiciary. I'm just a question about the legislative. What about the legislative? To what extent can a bishop create new norms or new rules or new laws? Can a bishop create a new laws in the church?
Ang obispo, in relation to his diocese, has that power to enact laws to advance the pastoral work or the discipline of the church or the sacraments. So pwede yan mga ganon, ano? Pero to what extent? To the extent na hindi siya against or contradictory to universal laws.
I see.
To the extent na hindi siya going against the papal enactments.
So it's like applying the universal law to his particular church.
Yes, pwedeng ganon, no?
All right.
Pwedeng ganon, no?
Okay. Father, we have two questions. A follow-up from Roy is, who enforces sanctions on erring priests and violators of such protocols?
Yung late sententiae, excommunication, sabihin, medyo mahaba itong word. In the latter part of our Canon Law 101, we will learn about excommunication.
But basically, the meaning is you don't need anyone to impose the sentence to you. Automatically, just by the mere fact of doing the act, you are automatically condemned. You are automatically condemned. That's the meaning. No, you don't need to go through a trial. You don't need to be told by anyone. Automatically, by doing that act, particularly, you automatically get the condemnation on the form of excommunication. So, however, alam ng pare yon, no?
However, there are only six such violations na automatic ang sentence na excommunication. 6 lang yan sila. The rest, however, is called perende sententiae. Ang perende sententiae, that is most preferred by the law. Ibig sabihin, for a punishment to be imposed, dapat duma sa proseso, due process.
So ibig sabihin, itong late sententiae, yung automatic, these are really grave sins.
Yes, graviora delicta.
So parang for us priests, to breach the seal of confession is one of the gravest, not only sin, but also crime that we can commit.
Yes.
It's at the top of the list, no?
Yes. Desecration of the Blessed Sacrament, the Holy Eucharist, is also a late sententiae offense.
Yes.
Marami pa. I think abortion.
Yes, abortion. Yes.
Even just being an accessory to the act of abortion. Ngayon
also,
yung
attacking a cleric when he's celebrating the mass, no?
Yung who enforces them, una nga sabi ng Luciano, yun nga automatic. By the mere commission of the action, it is imposed. Yun namang iba, it's the court, the tribunal that declares the sentence.
Father, this from Lex Evangelista. In some local parishes or sub-parishes, in the absence of priests who are authorized to perform communion service, and what is the extent of authority in performing the mass celebration?
Yung mga lay ministers can be deputed to celebrate yung sasabi nating liturgy of the word with Holy Communion. And this is provided in law, especially in situations wherein for lack of available praise and because of the danger for the souls, So they are deputized to perform, Pero hindi yun siya misa, ha? Hindi siya misa, walang consecration yon. Ang dala ng lay ministers is a consecrated host, the parokya. He brings it there. He celebrates the liturgy of the word, then perform the distribution of Holy Communion. So yun lang, yun ang limit. Hindi siya performing the consecration in the mass, hindi.
Yes, correct. All right. Good. We have, well, to this, I just mentioned the question but we don't answer it now kasi kasama ito sa pag-uusapan, no? So, Rafael, what are the 6 instances for excommunication? Late sentencia, I think. We will discuss, when we get to that point, we will discuss the difference about the two kind of excommunications at kung ano ang proseso ng bawat isa, and then how to remove if you are excommunicated, how to get it removed. So, but pag-uusapan natin pagdating sa sa that part of the book. All right. Another question for Jigs from Esther is, if you want to complain about a priest, what is the steps to take? What process? The bishop? Let me begin the answer and Father Jigs continue. So let me begin the answer by saying, if you want to complain to a priest, you have to be Christian first and go and talk to a priest personally. That's the first step. That's biblical, no? If your brother, the gospel of next Sunday, Matthew 18, the gospel of next Sunday, if your brother sin, talk to him. If he will not listen, bring some witnesses. If not, you talk to the church, no? Kapag nakausap mo at may kasamang mga mamamagitan at hindi siya nakikinig, that's when you go to the church. And so, ipapasa ko kay Father Jigs yung part na yan. When you go to the church, saan ka pupunta? If you have a valid complaint about a priest and you talk to him but he wouldn't listen, you try with some people na malapit sa kanya, hindi siya makikinig, and you have to go to the church. So where do you go?
So, presuming that the complaint is legitimate, that the violation is adequately serious, parang gano'n, Hindi lang yung ang pakit na mag-sermon, hindi siya sapatos pa nagmimisa, hindi lang yung gano'n na. Of course, these are concerns that we can raise to the priest. Meron pa ring levels of authority that you can approach. Hindi naman necessarily yung obispo. Try to talk to the priest itself. That's first, sabi ni Padre Luciano. Second, we can talk to the vicar foreign. Kasi yun ang kanyang role, yung to implement yung discipline within the vicariate. Or talk to
Sino yan? Paki-explain who is a vicar foreign. What
a vicar foreign is the coordinator of pastoral ministry within the vicariate. Ang vicariate po, ito po ay binubuo ng mga parokya. Sa ating diocese po, these are about 6 or 7 parishes. So, yung pinaka-coordinator ng activities doon is called the vicar foreign, in simple terms. Okay.
All right.
Try to address the grievance that you have against the priest. Depende rin po sa klase ng offense. No? Meron tayong ngayon, bagong sinisimulang reporting mechanism for sexual abuses. So meron pa rin tayong doon. Iba't iba, depende sa But it's always safe and Christian to talk to the priest himself in a spirit of correction.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the questions also. The question of dots, it's just the same. So I think it was answered. How do we complain about an unbecoming priest? So the same, no? So fraternal correction first. If not, then you go to the vicar foreign and he will direct you if you need to see the bishop or not, no? And what you mentioned about cases of abuse, can you say just a few words in Novaliches about our new program and what it's all about?
Okay. Itong ating, the Holy Father takes the issue of sexual abuse of minors and vulnerable adults very seriously. Siya yung last year, no? Nag-ano siya ng isang motto proprio. Kung saan sinabi niya, kailangan magkaroon ng reporting mechanism ang bawat diocese regarding cases of sexual abuses of minors and vulnerable adults committed by the clergy. Dapat yung reporting mechanism is public and accessible and stable. So sa atin po, we have now that Tugon or response program. Ang atin pong ginagawa is to set up the whole diocese to be able to receive complaints of abuses properly. Para hindi po siya tipong ano lang natin, sabi nga nila sa English, sweep under the rug. Yung parang parang ganun po. Similar tayong mechanism, sinisimulan natin po ngayon, but we have submitted to Rome yung ating mekanismo, paano mag-report, saan dumadaan yung mga report, sinong mag-handle.
I see. So it's not yet approved by the Vatican. It's just
parang we are waiting
to the Vatican.
Yes. Para sa atin, medyo may idea kung ano mangyayari. But we are waiting for their word.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So, Father, what are the kinds of power of governance? So, the branches is like government, madaling matandaan, executive, legislative, and judiciary. How about the kinds of power?
There are two kinds of power of governance. Una po yung ordinary power of governance. Remember that term kasi yung word ordinary, ano yan po, very madalas ginagamit sa simbahan yan. Pero it is used by the church in a different way. Iba po ang pagkakagamit natin sa word na ordinary. Kaya po magandang ating maintindihan yung word na yan.
Yes.
And pangalawa po yung delegated power of governance. Ang delegated po, mamaya we can explain. No? So these are the two kinds of power, ordinary at delegated.
So can you tell us a little more about ordinary? Because this is something na madalas sinasabi without explaining. Halimbawa, ang sabi ng ordinary ng diocese. What does it mean when you say an ordinary in the diocese? Sino siya? Okay. Who is the ordinary?
Para po ma-distinguish natin further, kasi yung ating common usage of the word ordinary refers to yung pangkaraniwan, ating special, parang ordinary lang yan. In contrast, extraordinary na, gusto ko yan kasi extraordinary. Pero po, when we say sa canon law at sa simbahan, ordinary, refers to the power that is connected to the office. Ordinary. So, the power that you possess is because the office provides for it. Yan. So, sa diocese po, para sa ating kaalaman lang ang ordinary po ay ang ating obispo. Siya ay talagang ordinary in the fullest sense of ordinary power of governance. Okay?
Father Jigs, para maintindihan ng tao, no, is parang sa loob ng tahanan, yung ordinary may power ay yung tatay at nanay. Pero ngayon, kung biyabiyahe ang tatay at nanay, may naiwan sila ng baby sister, so delegated yung kanilang power kasi ano na sila, alagaan mo yung anak ko So pagdating ng alas 10 dapat magtulog. So yung nag-i-impose ng mga batas at alituntunin ng bahay usually is the mother and the father. Pero kapag sila ay absent for some reason, then dinedelegate to someone else. So yun ang ordinary. Yung ordinary is yung nasa kanya. Kumbaga, yung
power.
By the mere fact na siya ang, halimbawa, yung obispo, siya ang tatay ng diocese, sabihin natin, for that being the bishop, he has that power for being the bishop of the diocese.
Sa executive branch ng power, kapag sinabing ordinary, ito po ay tumutukoy sa obispo. At yung mga katumbas niya sa batas.
Ano yung katumbas sa batas? Sino ang pwedeng boss na hindi obispo?
Halimbawa, Luciano, yung isang diocese na nabakante. Minsan ang Pope mag-assign ng apostolic administrator.
Ayun. Halimbawa, Bishop Pabilio.
Yun, ordinary talaga yon.
Bishop Pabilio now, no?
Yes,
He is not the hindi siya arsobispo ng Manila, but he is the administrator of Manila. So
yes, he has ordinary power.
Siyang ordinary ngayon.
Yes, oo. Hindi lang sila, kundi yung mga tinatawag nating yung mga superiors of institutes of consecrated life, yung mga major superior, yung kanilang provincial, or these are also called ordinary, pero hindi yan sila bishop. And those who possess this power in the executive branch, generally, yung mga vicar general. Ayan. Ordinary yan sila. So, kapag ating babasahin sa Canon Law, ito yung mga ordinary daw. The Roman Pontiff, yung Papa, yung Diocese Bishops, Vicar General. Even right now, sa Canon Law, Episcopal Vicar, major superiors of clerical institutes of consecrated life or societies of apostolic life, provincial, halimbawa, o kaya yung kanilang mga superior general, these are ordinary.
But when you say ordinary, for example, the vicar generals or the vicar foreigns or the vicar for the clergy or all these kind of vicars, what kind of ordinary power do they have? Hindi naman katumbas ng power ng obispo.
Hindi,
who defines what kind of power do they have?
Okay.
And follow-up question, can they exercise it motu proprio, alone? For example, yung Vicar General, can he make decisions like if he was the bishop?
Okay. Magandang tanong yan. Sige. Kasi medyo, that question belongs to the second kind of power. First pala, let's muna continue with the discussion kasi merong sa ating diocese, ang ordinary po is Bishop Roby, tsaka si Monsignor Romy Ranyada, tsaka si Father Tony. Tsaka si Father Noy Asopardo. Siya lang yung Episcopal Vicar ang title eh. I don't know who else. I think I can think of these four people who can be called ordinary in our diocese. Ngayon, if we're going to further discuss or distinguish yung ordinary power, therefore, may dalawang klaseng ordinary. Yung proper ordinary of governance, saka yung vicarious. So may satang vicar. Ang proper, of course, basically the bishop. Yung mga vicario, ito yung mga those who exercise ordinary power in the name of another person.
In the name of...
So yung mga vicar general. Ang tanong ni Father Luciano, pwede bang mag-go against yung the one with vicarious power? Halimbawa si Monsieur Romy, yung kanyang kasabihin ay against sa policy ni Bishop. Pwede ba yun? Ang sagot po, hindi. Kasi ang vicar foreign po, they act as alter ego ng obispo.
So halimbawa, hindi pwede, may obispo tayo, no? Ibig sabihin na hindi siya nakasakit, hindi siya absent. So may obispo tayo. Yung Vicar General cannot, for example, change me to another parish, halimbawa.
Hindi. Wala sa powers na yun. In fact, Father Luciano, kapag diocese administrator lang, hindi ka rin makakagawa ng major decisions unless, for instance, in the case of creating a parish, yung sede vacante would last for more than a year. So may limitation din naman ang vicarious power. May limits.
I see.
In
So
short,
parang ano so if I understood well, is the power of the ordinary, let's say in a diocese, is the power of the bishop na can be exercised also ordinarily but as delegated. So halimbawa, sabihin ng obispo sa vicar for the clergy, ikaw ang bahala doon sa formation program ng mga pare, or ikaw ang bahala mag-organize ng retreat, o ikaw ang bahala samahan mo itong paring ito na nakasakit. So it was delegated by the bishop, so the vicar can help the bishop doing that particular function. Tama po ba?
Actually, may iba pa rin yung yung vicarious saka sa delegated. Ang pinag-iba kasi ng delegated power, this is not based on an office but based on certain functions. For instance, si Bishop pumunta sa simbahan, magkukumpil, tapos kulang ang magkukumpil. Now, pwede siya mag-delegate ng power na yon na sa kanya.
Sa parish priest, halimbawa.
Yun ang delegated power. It's based on what do you call this? Functions, not office. Yung example ko kanina, yung Episcopal Vicar, hindi yung delegation of power kasi it's really part of his proper power. So it's part of his vicarious ordinary power to do that for the priests. So
it's power attached to the function, sabihin natin.
To the office.
Already. To the office. May question dito, Pats, no? How can we know if a priest is abusive of power or authority? Baga, how can you realize if this priest is exercising the power within his power or if he's going beyond his power?
Simply, kapag the word abuse is refers to first yung bang the action is outside the bounds of authority. So parang beyond the limits of the power. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng abuse. Second, siguro, pag hindi ka, it's also abuse of power pag wala kang ginagawa. Alam mo yun, yung tipong you should be doing something, for instance, and then you're doing something else. Ako, in my opinion, it's also a kind of abuse of power. So you will know anyway, kapag hindi proper ang exercise ng power ng isang person, or it's not exercised within the bonds of the limits of his authority or the kind of authority he has, that is an abuse of power. It can be iba yung malicious na immoral, iba rin yung mga in terms of administrative lapses, iba pa rin yun. So I don't know kung ano yung sinasabi sa tanong na yan, pero yun. So,
alright.
Beyond the bounds of your power, that's abuse of power.
We have a question here, and I think we already answered, but just to acknowledge the question of Amelia, I was bullied by a priest right after Mass in Facebook live streaming inside the church. He said my name twice. Siniraan talaga ako. I was at home then. What will the diocese do in cases like this? I think, Amelia, what we were saying a while ago is, first of all, you talk to a priest because fraternal correction comes first, no? So lapitan mo bilang kapwang Katoliko at kausapin mo na i-point out yung kanyang pagkakamali in a spirit of reconciliation but also in a spirit of correction para iwastong yung ugali na hindi masaktan ng ibang tao, no? Ngayon, kung hindi makikinig or kung pagpunta mo lalong nagalit, ay ininsulto ka, mga ganon, then you can talk to the vicar foreign. That is yung coordinator ng mga grupo ng parokya, mga usually 5 or 7 parishes. And so mayroong isa sa mga pare na nakatagda na bilang coordinator ng mga pare. At siya po yung vicar foreign. And he will know if the case can be solved, and usually 99% of the cases can be solved at that level. But he will also know if it needs to be referred to the bishop for further actions. No?
Yung yung meron kasing principle of subsidiarity tayo sa simbahan, Kung kaya naman i-solve sa level, sa ganung level, i-solve na lang doon. Huwag agad pumunta sa mas mataas na level.
Okay. Good. Wonderful. What else, Father? So we talk about the ordinary and vicarious power.
So sa ordinary power po, it's proper. It's exercised by the person who has headship, kagaya ng obispo or kaput ang tawag nila, or vicarious. It is exercised in the name of the one who has proper power.
A while ago you said on the executive. How about on the judiciary and the legislative? There is such thing as vicarious and ordinary power?
In canon law, it is only the bishop who exercises the legislative power. It cannot be delegated, or there is no one in law that possesses the office that is just to legislate law. Walang ganon. Sa judiciary naman, for instance, ang aking position, I'm called judicial vicar. So you say, vicar, sabihin vicarious ordinary power. Hindi po, kasi this is in the judicial aspects of branch of power. Hindi po ordinary. So even though in that sense ginagamit yung word na vicar, kasi po the real judge in the diocese is the bishop. In his name, I do that. So yun po. So talagang sa na siya, sa executive branch of government lang natin ginagamit itong concept ng ordinary proper power, ordinary vicarious power of governance.
I see. And how about delegated power of governance?
Yung ang basic distinction is sa delegated power of governance, power is given to a person, but not by means of an office, but by means of a function. Ang halimbawa nito, Padre Luciano, yung kanina sinasabi ko, yung pagkukumpil, ikaw na mo na magkumpil. Sina Father Tony, sina Ranyada, I think, no? In the time of Bishop Tobias, they were delegated. They have the delegated power of governance to perform
Kumpil.
Yung sacrament of confirmation dun sa kanilang mga simbahan. That is outside the ordinary faculties given by universal law, or outside the provision that priests may also confirm in cases of adult baptism. So ang tawag doon delegated power. So meron pa example, halimbawa yung ang Pope, kapag may mga malaking events, he delegates.
Actually, they call delegate, no?
Yes. Merong
delegate.
power yun, ha? May power yun to act in the name of the Pope.
Oh, I see. For example, nung International Eucharistic Congress in Cebu, hindi nakarating ang Pope, pero nagpadala siya ng Cardinal of Burma as his delegate.
Yes. May power yun, ha? In fact, he can do juridical acts in the name of the Pope.
I see.
Yan ang mga delegate.
I see.
Yeah, he can make decisions, no, within the limits of the delegation. So may mga, these are delegated power.
I see. Father, we have before we go to Ecclesia Supplet, and I hope we can get to Ecclesia Supplet. If not, we take it next week. If not,
we can skip na itong ibang.
May magagandang questions kasi eh.
Sige.
Okay. Ito, from Rafael Henry del Mundo. Father Matthew Hood, Associate Pastor of St. Lawrence Parish in Utica, contacted the Archdiocese of Detroit after discovering that his own baptism captured on video in 1919 used improper wording. Can you elaborate on what happened to this case and who can correct or remedy such particular insufficiency? Yan. Ewan ko if you are aware, it became a sensation on Facebook a priest that was baptized not using the Trinitarian formula, and therefore all his sacraments were invalid, including his own ordination, because he wasn't baptized validly, and therefore all his sacraments and all the sacraments he performed as a priest.
Very question. So
yeah, how do you can you give us a very short explanation of sanatio in radice, Father?
Okay.
How do you do? What do you do in this case?
Okay. First of all, when I say when it said in appropriate words, I think ang ibig sabihin nun hindi yung form ng baptism na ginamit na, which is I baptize you in the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit. So therefore, that is an invalid baptism.
Yes, correct.
In the law calls also that an invalid juridical act. So wala siyang in law. So all the same. So kailangan ng rebaptism niyan, rebaptism.
Confirmation.
Kailangan siyang i-baptize talaga.
Confirm also.
Confirmation.
Kung walang valid baptism, then all the subsequent sacraments, his confirmation, his ordination as a priest, they are all invalid.
Ganun ang magiging implication nun. Kasi it's based on what you call this, the valid baptism. Di ba? In fact, sa ordination, sa candidates for priesthood, kailangan baptized, valid baptism.
Yes,
so,
correct. Yes.
That's the implication. Now, yung sanatio and radice or yung radical sanation applies in marriage. Actually, the concept applies in marriages.
Now, what about all the other sacraments that he celebrated?
That will be a question. Medyo magandang itawid dyan sa ating next question kasi ang opinion ko, this is my opinion, mukhang lahat ng will be put to question. But the problem is, will the church provide the necessary power of governance for all these acts performed by the priest? Pwede sabihin natin mag-apply ang Ecclesia Supplet sa bagay na yan. How? Napakasimple. Napakasimple. What will happen is simply this. This is my opinion. Baptize that person and declare that everything will have a retroactive effect. So that baptism will have a retroactive effect. Pwede gawin ng
Actually, he was baptized, confirmed, and then 3 days after he was ordained deacon, and then I think a week after he was already reordained priest. So already happened. They renew all the sacraments. My question is, the people that he heard in confession, he celebrated their wedding. Baptism is okay kasi even if you are not a priest, the baptism will be still valid, no?
Yeah.
But how about those whom he heard in confession?
Yeah. So ganito.
Without being a priest.
So nagawa baptism having a retroactive effect. Ginawa din yung confirmation, ordination. Okay. So the same. All that the priest will do is just to have all that the bishop will do is to declare that all his actions would have retroactive effects.
I see.
Ito yung ating next na question. Ecclesia Supplet.
Ecclesia Supplet, yes. Just two short questions because they are follow-up questions. No, from Esther, how open are priests to fraternal correction? I know it's difficult to be corrected and difficult to make a correction. So I think, Esther, the answer is depends on the priest. I think I wouldn't be honest if I said all priests are open and all priests are not open. I think it depends on every priest, no? But what we know sure is the Lord command us to do fraternal correction. So independently of his reaction, we have the moral obligation of do fraternal correction. Now, if he's not open, it already can count to his sins, not yours. Now, Second, don't you think he should be the one to talk to me because he was at fault? He should be the one to apologize. Yes, he should, but the Lord, Amelia, the Lord said, if you know that your brother sinned against you, approach him. So ang utos ng Panginoon sa atin is tayong maunang lumapit kahit yung kabilang side ang may kasalanan. Alam po natin na mahirap, pero alam din po natin kung nobody takes the initiative ay walang mangyari. Kaya ang utos ni Jesus is if you are going to the altar and you know that your brother has something, you approach the person and you ask for let's reconcile. And so if you sit down and wait for the other person to apologize, baka hindi darating ang reconciliation. Kaya take the initiative, even if you are right. Okay. Ecclesia supplet, Father. What is it?
Sige, I'll define it ha. So basically, ang ecclesia supplet in English means the church supplies. What does the church supply? Automatic executive power for both the internal and external forum, where there is factual or legal common error and positive or probable doubt. Ito yung example nating sinasabi kanina, that people have had a common error regarding the priest's faculties. Hindi nila alam eh. Yun.
So, hindi nila kasalanan yun.
Yes,
Even the priest. Even the priest, he didn't know.
Yes, even the priest. So therefore, ito yung sinasabi ko, it can be given, no? So parang therefore, yung mga nag-confess, parang the absolution was real. So the church supplies the executive power by law automatically.
Oh, I see.
So parang ganun, maraming ganyan eh.
That's good. Wonderful. One more question dito, Father. Ask ko lang if pwedeng palitan ng isang parish or priest from missionary or congregation to diocesan priest kung mga parishioners ay hindi po satisfied. So I think it's good here. What is the process of a community in the Catholic Church when a community is not satisfied or a community wants a change? Because in other denominations, for example, let's say yung mga Episcopalian, there is a very strong voice of the community in choosing their leaders. How about in the Catholic Church?
Una po, very subjective yung yung question. Kasi kung the answer is we can replace anyone na gusto, mahirap po yan. I think there has to be a certain standard. Sa atin po, we have to wait for 6 years. Of course, we can express our legitimate complaints, no? Sa sa case naman ng kanina, pwede bang palitan yung diocesan, yung
to religious to diocesan?
May proseso ho yan. May proseso ho yan kasi kung there will be a dialogue between the bishop and the superior of the priests na religious. Pero po hindi merong the last part of canon law is about the procedure for replacing or removing a parish priest. Hindi ho siya ganun kadali. Kailangan mo ng just cause.
Yes, and just to share, no, because may experience din in the diocese na religious parishes that became diocesan parishes. There is kasi a contract, no? The bishop entrusts the parish, for example, to a congregation and make mga kontrata for how many years. So every now and then they renew and they renew or not. So some religious congregations decide, either they decide or the bishop decide not to renew the contract, and therefore it's given to a diocesan priest. So it's there is a contract between a religious congregation and the bishop, and so that can be changed if one of the two parties doesn't want to continue. But they have to agree on this. It's a long process usually. It's a long process.
Yeah, totoo.
Okay, Pats, oras na.
Oras na, may misa ka na.
Yeah, may misa ako. So, just the last question.
Okay.
Is the Catholic Church allowing communion to actively LGBT person?
Medyo broad ang question, ano? So, what does she mean by actively LGBT person? If
Yes,
that
I
means
don't.
na siya ay engaged in sexual actions, yung open ganon, blah blah blah. I think hindi na naman sila ang divide, like those who, for instance, are openly committing the sin of concubinage.
Married or living together, no?
So hindi lang po ito ang ano. So, but we appeal to conscious the person that when you have committed certain mortal sin, so you have to inhibit yourself from receiving communion, or known ka na public sinner.
It's actually quite similar, no? From straight or LGBT is the same,
Yes.
no? If you are living together and you are not married, so you refrain from receiving communion, both if you are straight or gay. All right. Now, if you are single, and you commit a sin against impurity, you go to confession, even if you are straight or gay or whatever. But it's not the being, but the action. So being gay or being straight, it doesn't make a person sinful. It's what that person decides to do. So his actions, the sins is in the action, not in the being.
Yeah, regardless of the orientation po, we have one standard for everybody. Hindi siya
Yes. Correct. All right. Well, very interesting. Maraming salamat.
Yay, natapos natin.
Natapos din. Next week, episode 9, we'll talk about ecclesiastical offices. Very interesting topic din. Okay. Ecclesiastical offices. So maraming salamat, Father Jigs. And salamat din sa lahat na napanood. And we'll see you again next week.
See you.
God bless po. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Parish, thank you.
Thank you.